and as Councilmember Rocha is your liaison, we will continue to make sure that happens and we are making your interests heard. So it's, like you said, adding value. So don't forget, you can make policy, initiate policy here.
Okay, I do want to get onto the work plan, but...
This is work plan.
Okay, well, there's still public comment on this part here, so Ed, you don't want to talk on this? You want to talk on something else?
A specific work plan item.
Okay, and you are a work plan item also? Okay, so work plan, I guess are we finished with... Okay, now we can finally get to the... I wanted to get the staff report before we got to the end, because too many other times we've gotten all done and then never had the staff report, so... Did you have anything else you wanted to say on your staff report?
Yes, this is specifically work plan, and, because it's going to kind of dominate some of your calendar. Half of you weren't here last year, before August of 2014. So as you develop the work plan, you're going to have to visualize the fact that there are triggers in the ordinance that governs you. And if you don't have copies of the ordinance, I think I'll get them to you. But here's what's going to happen. Some of you that are here have already gone through the caucus process. In November of this coming 2015, you're going to have to come up with a draft plan of the caucus. That's specifically written into what you do. In January, you're going to have to go to council, or I'm going to have to go to council, and present that draft work plan to the council to look at.
Work plan, I mean caucus plan.
No, it's a caucus work plan. It is a caucus, that's actually how it's stated, your caucus work plan.
Okay.
And that will lay out what you want to have happen. And any changes that you may want to do, and the attorney deliberately did this, and I'll have to educate all of you. They left certain flexibility in the ordinance so that it governs how that's why you present a new work plan for the caucuses every 2 years. So I'm giving you that's a major item in November. It'll be a big item in January. And then in the spring, it'll be a continuing item as you actually, all of you, participate in either running for election again, and for those of you that are odd numbers, you guys are going to be running the caucuses. Hopefully you all remember a lot of what you went through. So in your work plan already, there are pieces that are already in place. I'm just reminding you that as you go into this, if you're thinking, wow, we can fill up all the months with all these things, you've already got pretty much at least a good 45% of your calendar filled, because you're going to have to do all these things.
And there's a budget next year also.
Yeah, your budget's going to have to, I mean, you see there's pieces that you always will be doing. Your flexibility, this was an unusual year, because if you actually stop and think of it, and I didn't mention this last night, you have 10 meetings a year. You actually this year have, in this period, are going to do 13, because you had 3 special meetings. So that's how you kind of get around your ability to expand your work, because if you need a special meeting, you have that ability. So think about that as you start to think communication outreach on cameras, that you may have to do extra meetings.
I was expecting it.
So in other words, you're not supposed to meet in December, but you met in December as a special meeting for the UAS on December 6th. Mm-hmm. So you have certain flexibility in your calendar, but there are certain pieces that are absolutely fixed into it. I just want to remind you before you start talking about, let's take on trees, let's take on this, let's take on that, because I also provided you with emails that are in front of you as you to lead you your discussion from several of the members that talked about the planning office, the planning effort here, that you will consider some of these to be in your work plan. There's a lot in there, and so you're going to have to make some hard decisions, which don't have to necessarily be done tonight, but really need to be finalized in August.
Our work plan has to be finalized in August.
Well, what I'm saying is finalize it in August so that you can, you know, get it before rules in September. And because you've got 30 minutes and quite frankly, you've got a lot of stuff to look at. But at least 45% of your work plan is already done.
And we're not meeting next month. Okay,
Well,
so let us get started on our work plan. What do we want to do next year? That's it. So we have caucus in November and January, budget in May, and
Yeah, I would suggest take it by the topics of our areas that we're supposed to
okay.
handle in our charter. So public safety,
And that
code enforcement, budget, and transportation. So you know, see what bubbles up to the top in each of those areas is the
So
priority.
we had some emails that were distributed to everybody.
right, there's a document from Commissioner Colstead that actually is a document. And then there's a series of emails from Commissioner Horrigal, Commissioner Ames, Commissioner Dearborn, that lay out a series of ideas there, and I actually forgot the one regarding, what am I thinking of, trees, which actually came from Commissioner Gimone.
Okay, so let's open the discussion as to what we want to talk on.
Does anybody want to be an advocate for their?
I mean, I had added a few extra things as we were going forward. Is that the Envision 2040? They are doing a 5-year update of that this fall, and I think we need to monitor that. So I at least will be in the audience watching them, but I think it might be better to have some neighborhood commission participation and feedback to it. I'm offering to help some, but I want to have some comment on that. The Bay Area Rapid Transit is having a community working group that is working on the alignment of the Alum Rock Station. There should be some feedback on that. There's a homelessness that is, do we do anything with that? What can we do with that? Juan?
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how we can be as effective as we hope that future presenters will be, and what's coming to mind is what we've been doing, which is we form a committee, we come up with a simple grid or explanation, and so I'm wondering if in this case, it would be best for those who are advocating certain topics to go back, present them, send an email to the committee that includes a description of why, and this committee could draft something for presentation in August, and then it'll be a lot quicker. Or we could go through all the multiple topics right now and try to figure this out.
I want to at least list the topics that are being considered, because I mean, Joe, you mentioned the capital improvement program, and that really caught my fancy. I think we should look into it. There's a policy, summarize it for me here, please. The city used to do it just to review before staff.
No. Yeah, so it's one of the other items that goes to the city council is where the city's going to spend its infrastructure dollars to build community centers, roads, paving, anything that gets built in the city that the city does. That's something that I think is relevant for this commission to be involved in helping prioritize that. Because it affects what's going on in our community or not.
And is that something that we would spend half of a session working on? Or would that be more than one of these meetings? How would we get involved with it? How could we do something?
Yeah, well, I think, one, your comment I think is a good one, is to actually thumbnail these. And that's what I was trying to, once I put out, was just, how do we go through and take a chunk of it and not try to solve everything? So it's even just looking at the process piece itself is how do the community get better integrated into the decision-making of the CIP. And that would be our scope of work, is to go take that.
And to draft recommendations that we would then give to the city council.
And the Public Works Department, wherever that actually
Public
build it, yeah, and the planning commission's involved. So I think it's filling gaps.
Because you say you don't want us to be a book tour, I don't want us to be a study session or a coffee club and just sit around and talk amongst ourselves. I want to have a product recommendation that comes out of it. I don't want to be drafting 2 or 3 letters each month, that gets to be too much work too, but I want to have them appreciate, to use what we come out with. Go ahead.
One thing that I would like to see on the work plan, definitively on the work plan, would be that some subcommittee or number of us produce a page or 2 that defines how we develop a work product and the process we have to go through to do it in such a way that whatever we do, we pick this up and this is the way we do it. We don't talk about a lot of stuff to do without doing it and doing it in a way that kind of is a way that new members can look at and say, this is how it works, that other commissions can look at and say, that's how they do it, that the council can understand how it got to them. If we don't have that and we just talk about stuff and then write a letter, then it's a little fuzzy. It's just a matter of, there's no process, it's not defined, there's not, you put it in the machine, turn the crank and out it comes. We should have something, I mean, every company has it, most agencies have it.
So you're describing the process by which the topic comes before, on the work plan, we get the information, we consider it,
If you're talking about, if you're talking about trees or body cameras or whatever it is, you look at what we have to do, how it's done, and then the question is, can we do it? And if we do, this is how it's done. And as Gary pointed out, we learn from this process, we improve this process, and it becomes an institutionalized process that can react fairly quickly, efficiently, and develop a product that goes through the system fairly easily, and gets up and is approved.
So, and let me add something to that, because I was looking through the documents that I have from last year's discussion. I want to remind you that 2 things. One is, if I remember correctly, and correct me, Commissioner Colstead, on this, did you presented a schematic on how the commission works, if I remember correctly? And I think it was actually passed out during that discussion. It's actually a visual saying, here's how the work comes in, here's what, is that correct?
No, it was never passed out.
I'm sorry?
It was never passed out, it just kind of went away.
Okay, anyway, I have copies of it, because I was looking at it today, and I know you listed it as part of, what you wanted to do. I think you have some of that already.
Question, we can't pass this around, talk about it without being concerned about the Brown Act. It has to be a bit of business that we all deal with. It has to be on the agenda, it has to be public. So how do we get to the point that I can develop that and we all know it, and it is a public document that we follow?
We can always distribute material, but discussion, we can always distribute material, but discussion has to occur in a publicly noticed meeting.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of where I was getting to, and I was, where I spent the time to actually put some thoughts out back on May, whatever it was, 25th, for today, was, here are where my priorities were. And I was hoping to see that before tonight, that what everybody else's priorities were. Because that's the piece is, I think, how do we go and operate that way so that, here's the list of 50 ideas that people came up with. We could walk in today and put, dots on it and vote on it and say, this is something that I'm willing to actually spend my time on. I'm going to put the blue dot for the one I'm going to invest in time to actually make happen, and the green dot for the one I'm willing to lead, or the yellow dot I'm willing to, I think it's cool.
And that's what I'm trying to get to too.
Yeah.
With,
So
I
I think
see so many hands coming up before I get to talk.
my suggestion for August is that we whether we need to put another subcommittee together, you know, to work that out so that when we walk into the August meeting, everybody has the list of items, and then we have a structure of actually how to walk out within an hour of having to work.
So we have some things that we have to do, and that's what we're going through. We have to have the caucus. We have to have the
Budget.
We should have a budget. It's nice to have a budget. I don't know if we have to have a budget, but we want to have the budget. We have to have the caucus process.
We should be involved in the priority setting session that goes on at the council twice a year. That should be on our list of work nights that we input into that. Doesn't need to be a big piece of work, but it should be on our calendar, which is the work.
Okay. Then I have been hearing from several communities I've gone to. From my community I hear it, but I also heard it at the D1 meeting, was traffic calming, traffic parking and permit parking and issues related to that. Enhanced capital improvement program, protocols on the police cameras. That's not something we have to do, but I think we serve a really good purpose with the drones, and I see the same issue here is how do they deal with all the data that they collect, and how do they distribute it, and who gets to see it? I mean, police wearing cameras all the time, they'll see everybody they talk to, including people who come up and say they're lost, and people are rude and insulting, and people that are want to give a secret tip and don't want to, let me tell you about the mafia that has a hitman there, but don't tell anybody, but it's on the police camera. How do you deal with all these? There needs to be some process for all these things. Dealing with neighborhood blight, you mentioned the dashboard software. I don't know what we would do with the software other than say we support it, or features that we want to incorporate in on it. Is that something? I see your hand there for just a moment here. Public safety, you talked about going through the things that we highlighted on the budget letter. I mean, rather than just simply saying, yes, we agreed with this item and that item, we actually put in paragraphs where we added content to it. And so where we've added the content to it, I think we need to follow up on it. So the capital improvement program was one of the main things. And then the budget thing, that was the question about, I'm looking at you now, Ed, is the rezoning and how, when the general plan gets changed or PD comes through and suddenly land that was worth $10 a square foot is now worth, whatever the number is, it's worth something 3 times more. Those processes, you wanted an audit of that, so that would be, but how do we get that? Is that
First we got to find out if there's interest.
Yes, Juan.
Yeah, so I'll go out on a limb. So I recommend that we create a committee. I recommend that we each provide our input to that committee. I threw out a rough draft of what each topic would include. It would include the category, is it public safety, who the lead person is, who's going to champion this, a description of what it is, the reason why this is important to us, the value that we can add, and a suggested product, whether it's a letter, a public meeting, whatever it is. So I just throw that out there, and I think that the committee could finalize this and put something together, and we could come back. You could provide it 15 days in advance, and then we could come back and be ready in August to say yay, nay, I think pretty quickly.
I'm going to be gone, I'll offer this. I'll be gone the week after July 4th. After that, I'll be happy to host a meeting here of the ad hoc committee, as long as it's after the 12th of August, the 12th of July. I'll set up a room and things for you folks to go ahead and have your discussion. So I'll offer that.
We need a motion on that, or no?
Well, the chair can appoint the committee or set up a committee.
Okay, so if we do that, then we don't have to discuss it anymore tonight. I thought we would at least discuss a little bit.
Well,
It's too much.
Huh?
It's too much.
Yeah,
We
it's
can't
too
get it
much.
done.
So,
Yeah.
can I add something to the mix to all this stuff?
Please.
And this is just something for you to ponder. I'd like to ask staff. I did a project in 2010. It was a citywide training called Neighbors in the Chambers. And it's interesting because it leads to all what some of you are talking about. It happened over 3 Saturdays here. I had 65 people sign up for it, citywide.
I was there.
You're right, you were there. Anyway, what it did was, the first session was taught people how government works. Residents, these are residents, they're not involved with neighborhood groups or whatever, they want to learn how government works. And they're all in council chambers, that's where the sessions were. The second one was really all the committees, everything you need to know to be an effective advocate for your neighborhoods, for yourself. Final was an actual mock council session where the class become council members, there's attorneys, they have an issue. In this case, Mayor Reed came and did a presentation before they started working on the issue. I may have Emilio work on that as a project to revive that, because I had a lot of good comments from it. And I think people really became, they actually said, we enjoyed this. The reason they're held in council chambers, why I had to do it one time, was because it demystifies. What I tell people is, if you show up for the last vote on an issue, you're years too late, You really have to go to the first meeting in the community or whatever. As you put this together, what I'm offering is this can either be CMO or a partnership between the Neighbors Commission as a work product with CMO. It may not be your fit because you've got a lot of things to consider.
I'm sorry,
It's called
City Manager's Office.
Yeah, I'm sorry, City Manager's Office. So I'm just laying that out for you to consider as you go into your discussions. I'm more than likely going to set it up myself, but I thought it might be a good fit to get input in partnership where actually I do the bulk of the work and you guys act as advisors or advocates or whatever. I'm only throwing that out. You don't have to do anything with that aside just put it into your thinking caps.
Ernest, I just want to note that I believe, and you could speak to Ed Rest about it or to Kim Podorzik, that UNSCC, United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County, may use Neighbors in the Chambers for the next conference that it will hold. And so definitely touch base because it sounds like you're both working toward the same thing.
You're stealing my training.
I think we are. I'm sorry, I'm on the UNSCC board along with Ed Rast, and so that's why I know that, and Pete Colston.
I'm sorry, Pete's on.
So I thought we would just go through months and put down which major topics we want, but you're saying we should have a subcommittee. In August? I thought we'd do it today and be done with it, honestly. But there's so many different topics.
I thought I heard a suggestion to do a priority, to let everybody vote on their top priorities to filter the list.
I have some comments that I put in. I have some from Dave. I have some from Joe, but I have not heard from you, Linda. So, or Perry, you haven't sent me your comments. So what do you? I mean, I should just go around the room and
code enforcement.
Code enforcement. Actually, it might not be a bad idea to right now just say what each person's big issue is. And
community engagement.
Okay.
Mine would be code enforcement, especially the trees.
Trees? Make sure that they plant trees?
Planting the trees, but also I got some information regarding illegal fines that the council's looking at as far as increasing it.
Oh, fines for illegal removal?
Illegal removal on the street, but also going up on the private property.
Okay, the ordinance trees?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Gary?
I had code enforcement was on mine, plus, and on the dumping, neighborhood dumping, and actual code enforcement. I mean, they cite people and get some pain, inflict some pain with the citations.
Juan?
Yeah, I'm not sure how we would include this, but I suppose my priority would be adequate police staffing.
Make sure they hire them. Okay, Nick? I started kind of in the middle, I'm working my way around, I'm going to move around it.
I think it came up, and I saw in some of the earlier documentation, I would term it as a community mobile social dashboard app.
What?
And,
Oh, the dashboard.
Something we should look at. Body-worn cameras, I think, absolutely should be on there. And then crowdsourcing public safety through private cameras, more formalized than the current voluntary program that we have. Not, but still voluntary, more formalized.
Mine is code enforcement and public safety.
Okay? I can't hear you.
I also feel public safety is really important, and also code enforcement.
So I'd go with neighborhood blight, which dealt with dumping and code process, and then Vision Zero implementation.
Which one?
That's Vision Zero.
Vision Zero.
Transportation.
What is
Traffic, that's the city's program of zero
No,
fatality.
where does that fit in on our,
Transportation.
Transportation department.
And public safety.
Public safety, yeah.
Dan?
Mine would definitely be under transportation with Vision Zero. I'm a strong advocate of that. Also with the code enforcement for graffiti and light.
Okay. So the number one thing I hear everybody I talk to in my area is transportation and our roads, and it's becoming more of an issue than
Like pavement management?
Exactly. So that's why I jumped into the capital improvement budget process. I think there's a lot in that we could be influencing as we set policy. Also, the body camera stuff is high on my list.
Where body camera go? Oh, there it is, okay.
Again, we've talked about a lot of things we'd like to do, but we've not talked about how we're going to do them. I would like to put on the work plan that it doesn't take a lot of work, but come up with 1 or 2 pages that says this is how we do it.
So incorporate the, formalize the lessons learned type thing and the process.
And the
Process.
So
Document
as
it.
we turn over every 2 years, we don't have to spend 4 years learning the process again.
Good point. Okay, Marie?
I would just say public safety, because the thing that I hear in my neighborhood is
Hard to hear you.
the thing that I hear in my neighborhood the most is about break-ins and burglaries, and it's just public safety. And I also just got into this whole thing because of children, you know, not having things to do after school and stuff. And I don't think we touch on that except through the library. And that's going to be helped now with the 6 days of the library. That's helpful. But mainly public safety and code enforcement.
Mine would be code enforcement, also the neighborhood cleanup areas and illegal dumping. And I think last year we had fireworks under that too, so we should be working on that all year long. And also public safety. And maybe we could do the police body cams in that public safety. That's all. I would have to do a separate thing, but it seems like that is part of what people are talking about, the cameras that are out there, the videos and everything else, so, yeah.
I have a whole lot of them.
I have a pretty chitter, right?
Yes. Not too long ago, you were there, Larry, at the conference we had actually on Coyote Creek, but involved in that were people who, the young man really made an impression upon me, who is now attending San Jose State, and he was talking about code enforcement as it relates to those homeless people, and how they feel that they are setting up a place to live, and how they've given a short time, and how they are run from one end of the town to the other. So I want to see how that can tie in to the homelessness. The next one is public safety, of course. I'm also in District 2, and definitely the body cams.
So, I don't want to repeat a lot of things that have already been said, but I want to
it counts to make it.
I want to amplify what Nicole said, and also what relating to David is community outreach, and in particular, emphasizing our process. We're doing more where people are asking us to send messages out to our neighborhoods. We should also be formalizing our process more for gathering data back from the neighborhoods, issues that bubble up. So,
illegal dumping and traffic hazards in neighborhoods.
Traffic hazard.
Speeding.
Okay, will that be traffic calming? And,
yeah, traffic calming.
See, Desiree, did I get yours?
Yeah, it was code enforcement, and I'd like to also put community engagement and code enforcement. I already said the code.
Community outreach, is that the same thing?
Community, yeah.
And engagement.
We really need to reach into the neighborhoods.
Can I have one more?
Sure.
I've heard a couple folks who presented comments tonight speak to we're data driven now.
Yeah.
And that we reinforce.
Cannot hear you.
I've heard a couple folks here tonight, when they've spoken open comment, say that we're data driven now, that we're a city that's data driven. And that we work to reinforce that by insisting, for example, that if you're going to present about fireworks, that you come with number of fires, or how many police officers, or how much money is it costing. Those are things I really need to know. We all need to know, because we can't possibly, as neighborhood commissioners, scope things properly. Second, we some type of empiricism, and this speaks to David's comment, that we're going to come up with a superstructure to, formalize our processes, but in those, include a way to have a rational, unbiased view, so that the loudest person in the room doesn't win all the time.
I'm losing it.
So that the loudest person in the room doesn't win all the time, who's currently me, I suppose. But that we really, really discipline ourselves to look at that and ask for that. And then maybe the city auditor is invited every single time. Bring her, she's phenomenal. That report is a work of art. And so I think that's the best of the city presented right there. And that as commissioners, we have a responsibility to bring that forward and insist on it with every meeting, and ourselves, and especially in our presenters. I think we just have to have them, their report that's due 2 weeks in advance. If we go through the body cam discussion with as loose a PowerPoint presentation as we saw with the drones, we're going to be here for 27 hours. Well, you could have presented that in about 8 slides, and we saw about 30 every single time. So that's my comment. Data, empiricism. Yay.
I'm wondering about logistics for getting this ready for August. This being all of the topics for the work plan. I see that some of the categories are very broad, public safety. We all support public safety, so I wonder if when we propose the topics to you, Larry, that they, or the committee, that they will be a little bit more specific, like illegal fireworks, not public safety. And so I just throw that out there,
So I guess now I'll ask for volunteers to have a subcommittee to meet sometime between after middle of July and before 15 days before the August. I guess that would be the last half of July to meet to collect all this information.
For the work plan specifically, right?
For the work plan. Specifically for the work plan.
and not to finalize it, but to
come down with a number of choices that a lot of people like these things. These things will probably take 1 month. This one might take 2 or 3 months. When can we fit it in and come up with a few choices.
Comment or suggestion, following up on Juan's kind of walkthrough, is to actually go through, if you could go and share that with Ernest, so you could email out to us, Ernest, like this next week, that format, because then the working group, when when it gets together in July, could have the benefit of that information, of the thumbnails and scope, magnitude to it. Then we aren't trying to, that group trying to figure out what it is the project is.
Yeah, also they should be, we have the categories, and all these items should be put under the categories, not just a shotgun, list of items. So, like under transportation or community engagement, what are the items under that, so that we can filter them out and
Or make sure that we're not eating only the dessert, but we're doing the vegetables too.
Well,
We're doing all four categories.
we have certain framework to work with, and that's what we should do.
Okay, yes?
When the subcommittee comes back for the August meeting, it would be ideal if that committee had a structure, a format to lead the commission through a process to come up with the end product, as opposed to throwing everything out emptying the salad on the table and saying, how do we put it back together? But come out with a process. When you go to work for a company, you go into a room, 30 minutes later you come out with something because they were structured, they had a process.
But I don't want to have it so structured that I guide you through it and you can decide you want your left shoe on first or the right shoe. I want to have some real discussion here.
Full engagement, but a process that brings everybody together to kind of produce the product with enough knowledge to make sure that we don't have the least important at the top.
I think it was interesting going around and getting each item though here first.
I'd underscore what David said, that one has a good starting point, I think, with his 4 or 5 bullets that he went down, I think. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot
so
of sense.
who wants to be on this committee with me to meet in July? So, Dan?
How many committee members do you need?
As many as want to be there to participate. If it gets too...
Not as many as.
You cannot have a
You hit a certain,
quorum.
you hit a certain quorum, you hit a quorum and you'll become an official meeting.
Okay, so Nick, you want to be on it?
Committee as a whole.
I don't think you want to discourage
And Gary? And Juan? Joe, you be on it? Desiree?
I did, but I might be out of town, so I don't know what day it's gonna fall.
We're not quite sure, so we'll get more than enough names and try to find a few days that can do it.
Count me in.
Okay?
I'll be an alternate if somebody's on vacation.
You're on vacation, anybody out looking this way? You guys want to be on it?
I'm going really a lot.
Okay.
Larry.
Terry?
I'll represent her, I do everything she says. So.
Three? Okay. So, Dan, Nick, Gary, Juan, Desiree, Dan, Nick, Gary, Juan, Desiree, Joe as an alternate if he feels like it, Terry, Marie, and myself. And we'll meet sometime.
Why doesn't somebody come up with a bingo card of availability?
I will send out a survey monkey. Okay, and everybody say I can do this. I could, but I don't want it, or I just can't, and I'll see which one gets the highest scores. Okay, I will send out a survey monkey after I talk with you. Okay, I don't have everybody's email address.
I do, I'll send them to you.
Okay, do you have everybody's, or are you missing a few?
I have everybody unless there's someone new and I don't prefer.
Okay, let me get them from you because I'm missing a few.
Harry, put me down too, if I'm available.
Okay.
Is that Linda joining also?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say you had a little bit of gender balance.
Well,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it's 9 o'clock. I know that. I'm working on it. You're my time clock. I know.
Some of us were up late last night.
Yes, so was I. Okay.
That's why I'm including you as some of us.
But I saw you leave.
Mr. Chairman, I think you still have 2 comments. that presented Carter.
1 minute. Oh, okay, that's right. I'm sorry. Public comment, yes.
Ed Rask.
Ed Rask, yes. Hi, nice to meet you.
I very much support David's comment about having a procedure on how to work through the process, both how you actually come up before you present it to the neighborhood commission, as well as what you do with it afterwards. As probably a lot of you know, I was chair of the Sunshine Reform Task Force. We went through the same process for the first 6 months until we basically said, this is how we're going to run it. And we set up committees and people of interest. Basically, as you all went around the room today, you could tell what everybody was interested in. If you set up your permanent committees, then the people can go and work on the things they're interested in. It will become experts for you. What will happen then is when a topic comes up, those committee members will be the people handling the conversation. What will happen is, so when you start off your meeting, you could have the committee reports, and they would in turn lead off the committee report every time, make it very short, and then the one who has a particular topic, agenda topic, that committee handles it. So therefore, and anybody who else wants to put information in could submit the information to the committee itself, and you get it done a lot faster. We went through the process for 2 years. The first 6 months were very similar to yours, a lot of talk and not a lot of action. But once we got the 18 months, we went through it and came out really fast. And also we got really quickly to the discussion and the recommendations, the actions. The next one is we should look at how the council or basically the other committees do it. If you're going to have agenda items for action items, there ought to be a date where the memos come in from the staff or whoever's going to do your presentation. And second of all, that same date should be where a memo from the public comes in. In certain cases, since your agenda is announced early on, you could say, fine, I may even want to put a memo to you in from the public. And that way we cut it over, and therefore you would have an opportunity to look at it at that point in time, rather than hand it to you. The last one is communication down from somebody here, ideally the chair or the vice chair together maybe, put a communication report out each month and have it sent out to the neighborhood leader groups, neighborhood community leader groups. You have to remember the structure that was set up for this is neighborhood associations. Then I set up the first one, and that was the neighborhood and community leader groups down in District 6, District 7 was later. And then over the top of that, the structure was set up for the neighborhood commission, of which the neighborhood leader groups select you and the council basically confirms you. So essentially, you've got to have communication that goes all the way up and all the way down the process. And also, if you had a chair, vice chair's report, because they could share the workload, that report could also be communicated up to the council. If that way, because they would want to see if a council member is going to want to see what you're sending out to all the neighborhoods, that same thing could be copied to them. Thank you.
Roma Dawson. I have a specific request for the work plan. It regards council outreach policy 6-30. While land use is not your purview, I believe how this policy is implemented and the communication with neighborhoods is very much. And I'm sure some of you remember because Joe and Laurel brought this policy for your review. And I see some of you nodding your heads, so you probably already, you affirmed the policy. I'm not asking you to review the policy. I'm asking you very specifically to ask staff to report on how that policy is being implemented currently. And I'm very concerned, and I won't share the specific incident because I don't think it's appropriate to talk about a specific land use item before this commission. But I will tell you I'm gravely concerned and troubled about it. And I know you have a lot of serious items, but I hope you will think about spending just a little bit of time on this one. And I think it would benefit every neighborhood in this city. Thank you very much.
Could you, I'm not familiar with that policy, could you tell me, when you're saying you're concerned about land, physical land or facilities?
It's a public outreach policy in general, but it most specifically relates to land use. And it has to do with notification, the circumference around the land use area that's notified. It also carries something where a specific land use item can be designated of significant community interest. Did I say it right? Significant community interest, and I am very concerned that this policy is basically, okay, I was trying to be more diplomatic here and choose my words more carefully, but I think it talks about how it was revised in 2004, most specifically, so land use could be folded into the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative. Many of you were in NACS and other groups, and that piece has dropped off. And I don't think it's, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. I'm just trying to say this is something that doesn't seem to be on anybody's radar anymore. And it can cause significant problems in a neighborhood, and specifically in the one I live in right now. So thank you. Did I answer?
Larry, a quick question for the people here. If you're not familiar with it, Google City of San Jose Policy 6-30.
So basically it says if you rezone something or doing permits, it has to be within 500 feet, you notify people.
Let's start with the intent. It's about that the goal of the city is that for land use items, the city will go out and work with the community long before, going back to the point, don't wait till the end of the process, start at the front of the process. And that's why it was written, created by developers and the community jointly together. It's an important policy, it fits in community engagement.
Yes, well, we had that same issue in Evergreen just recently. So.
Any other last items before we adjourn?
Yes, my question, and I just need clarification, is that I know we had certain parameters when it came to certain land issues. I just want to make sure this does fall within our purview.
Since the 6-30 is not the zoning of any land, it is the public notification process. So it's a community outreach information.
Okay,
So,
okay, that's where it falls under
yes,
engagement.
definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Third.
Keep recording for that if it doesn't pass. All adjourned.